Welcome to another interview for Meet the Coach. I am Lindsay Heiserman, one of the co-chairs of communications for ICF Minnesota. And today I am talking with Deb Johnson, and we are going to learn all about her coaching practice. So thanks for joining me.
Thanks, Lindsay. I appreciate it. I'm excited.
Yeah, let's start with my favorite. I should say I have a lot of favorite questions, but really, what brought you to coaching? Everyone has a unique story. What's yours?
You know, it isn't always interesting to hear stories of everyone else. Mine was that I actually had made a decision to leave a corporate position I had. After 37 years in corporate, I decided, time to move on from a telecommunications industry into something else. So I was really on my way to another position within corporate and ended up doing some consulting work in the meantime. And I served on another board, Minnesota Computers for Schools, and one of the other board members happened to be an executive coach. And as I was talking to her, she said, it sounds like coaching might be the thing for you. You should check this class out called The Power of Possibility, which was at Learning Journeys Coaching School, which is located in Woodbury. So I took the class. It's a 2.5-day class, and that was it. The light bulb went on. I thought, this is it. This is what I like to do. And I went through all the certifications, practitioner and master certification, and started my coaching.
I find there's sort of two camps, right? The one where people sort of organically make it there at the beginning of their career. Like, for me, that's what it was. I was always coaching, whether it was in personal training or life coaching and business coaching. That was just sort of, I knew I was headed that way. And then there's other people who they do it their whole life. They just don't realize they're doing it. Right. And then they want to be done with the thing they're doing. Yep. And then someone says, but you've actually been coaching. Maybe you should do that now.
Yes. And that's actually when the light bulb went on, I realized that was the part of what I loved the most. And so therefore I decided, okay, let's go for it. And so that's what I did.
All right. So tell us about your coaching practice now. What does it look like? Who do you help?
So I really focus on people who are faced and trying to navigate through change and transition. So whether that be in their personal life or it could be in their business life, professional career changes, those types of things. I find that, I've been through a lot of transitions in my career and my life, and I utilize that knowledge, and that's where I'm drawn. And so people who are facing those same things are really where my sweet spot is. That's where I focus. And so I literally say transition, and it kind of captures all flavors, because in life, we all go through many, many transitions. And so what do they look like, and how do you navigate it? Because those waters, even if it's something you chose to do, can be rough waters at times, because you're trying to navigate that unknown. And I think the unknown can be pretty scary and can have some fear in it too. So it's kind of like, yes, I made this decision, and I would like to figure out what I really want to do, or where I want to go, or, and through that process, get to an end result that is success for them, whatever that looks like. So yeah, that's where I focus.
I like what you said there, how you can be so confident in your decision and also so afraid. Right.
Yes.
And they exist at the same time, and having a coach to ultimately, a coach's role is to support, right? Like I find so often what my job is, and probably yours, is that we just reaffirm that people know they're making the right choice.
Right.
People really do know. They know what they want. They know where they're headed, but you add that fear element in and people freeze. So having a coach to support you really just opens the door for them to walk into their decisions that they already know they want to make.
Yeah, sometimes it feels, I know for me, I use that experience of feeling like you're jumping off a cliff, and now what? It's kind of the now what situation. So I agree. I think the answers are always inside of us. It's just a matter of finding them and standing side by side and partnering with someone to help them through that process and navigation. I think it's just real. I have a passion about that. And I really believe that everybody has gifts within them. So I think they're there, and it's a matter of uncovering them, that they might have been buried for a bit too. So how do we find those that they have either forgotten about, or it's just natural to them, something that they naturally do that they think is no big deal, is actually truly a gift that not everyone has. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Do you have a particular transition that you really love to work with?
You know, I have been through so many. I could pick probably 100. You know, I mean, not that's probably it. I've been through a potential loss of job, and ending up having one within the company that I worked for. So managing that. So people faced with those job or career changes and choices. I've also, you know, and that's been pretty prevalent in my life. Certainly when I left the company after being there so long, that is a huge transition that I think sometimes people, their identity is tied into what they do. And so that's kind of a sweet spot for me, is what's next, and how do I kind of take that piece of, you know, find myself, that how do I find myself again? My identity, you know, what I was doing wasn't who I am, and how do you make that transition from what you do to who you are? And that's a really hard thing, especially if you've been doing something for a very long time, or even a short time. But the longer you are there in that space, the harder I think it is to potentially, what I call, peel off of that and then go into that other space to say, I have a lot of skills, I have a lot of gifts. How can I use them? And I love to work with people who are wanting to be in service to others. I think that is a key thing, whether it's a leadership position or whatever, is how can they stay, you know, in that space of curiosity, as they explore options for them, which then makes them a great leader if they can bring that to the workplace as well, no matter where they're working or
Yep.
where their career leads them.
Do
Yep.
you have a particular favorite thing that you love most about your coaching?
I think for me, I'm always about wanting to help others. And so for me, it's my opportunity to be there in that space and really, it's sometimes a sounding board as we coach, right? We listen, and we really, I think empathy falls in there too, right? So for me, it's a service. It's really a service thing. Um, and that's always kind of been my theme anyway, even if I look back into the other things I've done, is really being there for others. And how can I help or assist or partner with them? So that's the piece that really gets me. It's the service. It's the service piece.
Yeah. Do you have any tools, books, podcasts that you follow that help you stay informed as a coach?
You know, it's interesting. I've I've been thinking about that. Actually, it's kind of funny because I have a very simple tool that I was actually coached on myself, and it's called a T chart. And people probably go like, yeah, well, what's a T chart? So a T chart is basically to sit down and take some time, take a pause, and put down all of what you like and all of what you would not like to do. And what's interesting about the T chart is very simple, but it then gets you to a place of looking at the what don't you want to like when you're trying to figure out what your next step is. And I find that's a very simple tool that's been around for a long time and used in many ways. So that's one of them. I also use a life map where people can map out, you know, different things as they relate to, you know, what do they like to do, you know, and there's like 9 or 10 steps in there, and they actually then can then weigh them as terms of how much importance that has to them. There's a lot of aha moments, because what typically happens is somebody will weigh something or mark something very high, and then they take a step back and will look like, yeah, but I'm not spending a lot of time in that place. So how do we work at that? And the most recent, the quadrant, there's another one, the quadrant too. So, and I would tell you the most recent thing that I've done is the positive intelligence program, and using that tool has been very helpful for me personally. And now I'm sharing it with others and working with others utilizing that tool, which identifies what we call saboteurs, or the negatives, if you will, and also our sage powers, which are the positive. And how do you make that shift and recognize and aware and create that awareness, and then be able to shift over into what we're born with, which is the sage power. So yeah, those are my favorites.
Those are great. And I think about it in my own practice and how one small, simple thing can just launch a person, you, the coach, or your client, or both, but just opens the doors, right?
Yes.
And
Yeah,
it gets people to focus on something, because when
exactly.
you're especially in transition, life is like this and you can't even think about
Right.
one thing. So
Right.
the more simple you can keep it, it just opens up sort of where you need to go next.
Yeah, because a lot of times when you're in that space, you're in a state of maybe chaos, maybe, like I said, that space of unknown. If there's something that can tether you down a little bit to just, to your point, just focus for a short period. It doesn't have to be really long. What I find is if it's short, if it's a shorter tool or whatever that they can use or something that they can get to quickly, that is, like you said, the first step, and then you can go from there, which I think is a door opener for sure.
Yeah.
Because I believe that when one door closes, there's another door that's opening up. So where's that door, right? So
Yeah. How
yeah.
has ICF Minnesota helped you as a coach?
I was interesting story. I was asked to be on the board 5 years ago, and to be honest with you, I had just, I'd gone through certification and all that, and I was kind of like, well, what is ICF? It's kind of an awareness thing. It's like, and why would you want me on the board was the other part of it. And I have a lot of business background, as I had said. And so I decided, yeah, let's do this. And I had been serving on another board, which I was transitioning off of. I was a nonprofit board. So I jumped in with both feet, as I always do. And I actually found that I really loved it. I was able to utilize some skills, but also get involved in the community, because what I find is that I learn so much from other coaches and what they do. And certainly the programming that ICF Minnesota has, and then the wider community when you get into ICF Global. It's just it's that community piece and that organization piece that I think it really helped me and benefited me in terms of learning and understanding, because I'm always in this space of what else can I learn? What else can I do? So service, I had mentioned service was the first piece. That was a biggie for me, and learning was the second piece. That makes me stronger. I believe it's made me stronger as a coach and as a person. I really do. I feel good about being involved, and it's been an interesting journey for sure. So.
Yeah. How can people best connect with you?
Actually, I have a website out there. They can actually go to djconsultingandcoaching.com. So my website is out there, and I do have a email address, which is on the website, by the way, as well. But it's Deb at djconsultingandcoaching.com. And then they also can reach me on my wireless phone, which is 612-272-0145.
All right.
I'm
One
always
last
open.
question. One last question.
Yes.
If an ideal client just dropped from the sky for you today, what would that look like?
An ideal client that is in a space that just is lost, lost in what they're within their transition, and they are just looking for someone that can stand alongside of them and really kind of dig in and figure out, where do we go? Where do we go? And again, like I said, partnering and really listening to them and understanding what they are really looking for and pursuing, and then helping them find those gifts. I think that's because a lot of times I find that when you're in that space, you forget everything that as
Yes.
I said before. So yeah, that would
Which
be
would
it.
also be a great opportunity for people transitioning into the coaching world, right? Like you made that transition from
Yes.
corporate into coaching. That's a huge transition about who am I now? Who am I as a coach? Who do I help? So many questions.
Yeah.
And I know it can feel very lonesome and lost in that transition too. So
Yeah. And I would agree. And I think it can be lonely. And I think that's the other part of it is how do you plug into like ICF Minnesota or a community of if you're going into coaching, for instance, in that coaching spectrum that you can learn from.
yeah.
And feel like you're part of something bigger. I think that's the other deal too for me is how can I make an impact and add value, you know, to someone. And it only, if I can make an impact only on one person, it's worth it.
Right.
It's worth it. Okay. So
yes.
yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing about your work, and make sure to connect with Deb within ICF Minnesota or her website.
Thank you so much, Lindsay. Have a great day.